Noticed some rather unusual symptoms as you've been heading from perimenopause into menopause, and you've got no idea where they've come from? Lots of the ladies that I work with had no idea when they told me about something that it was actually also a symptom of the decline in their estrogen and progesterone. So I thought it might be helpful to list a few of these. I've got 10 of them for you. Some of them you may know about, and some of them you may think, oh, that's why. And then if that's something that you're struggling with, you may be able to do something about it. So the ones that many people know about, obviously, are things like increased headaches. They know about anxiety, brain fog, or memory problems. You might even know about hair loss or hair growth, that fuzz that comes on your chin, joint pain and palpitations. They're all fairly well known, along with the hot flushes and night sweats and weight gain, etc. But what about some of the slightly more weird menopause symptoms? So let's start with itchy skin. Many people say to me, Sam, my legs are driving me up the wall. I wake up in the night and I've scratched down my legs, or I've scratched the backs of my arms. When you have a lack of estrogen, the amount of lubricant, it's called sebum, that you produce in your skin goes down. And as a result, we start to get really dry, itchy skin. So just having more moisturizer around the place and making more allowance for putting moisturizer on your body, and not avoiding the fat that we used to cut out in our diet. So making sure you've got a diet that's high in omega-3s and omega-6s and those lovely fatty avocados and smoked fish and all of that sort of thing is a really good idea to think about. The second one is bloating and digestive problems. Women, again, don't mix the fact that it's their bloating problems have come on at the same time as their perimenopause. So your gut is very sensitive to estrogen. And when that estrogen level is declining, its ability to process food in the same speed or in the same way as it used to often becomes impaired. As a result, you might wake up with a flat tummy, and by the time you go to bed, look like you've got a tummy right out here. You might notice that you're much more sensitive to some foods. You become very bloated. And just keeping a diary of what it is that happens, what you ate or what you drank, and starting to pay attention to that can be really helpful for you to think, okay, when I do that, this is what happens. Perhaps I'll make some changes. And number 3 on my list, do you remember years and years ago, perhaps when you were a young mum, those breast pains that we used to have? Well, actually, those breast tenderness pains often come back for many women. It's called mastalgia as we're in perimenopause and menopause. And once again, it's due to the fluctuations in estrogen. It may be that just wearing a gentle bra at night can be really helpful, or making sure that your bra is really supportive. I often notice when I take my bra off, I've got quite big boobs, that actually, oh my gosh, it's really, really sore. So if that's something you're noticing, assuming that you've kept up with having your mammograms and you know there's no changes there, then it's probably something to do with your hormones. If it carries on for a long time, definitely go and speak to your GP and get some support with that. Number 4, a burning, sore, or itchy tongue. Yeah, it's really true. Our tongue can notice the effects of the decline in estrogen, and we can get something called like a fiery mouth. In fact, 40% of women report that they've had this burning tongue type of sensation. So if that's you, you're not alone. You might notice that some things make it worse. And again, by keeping a diary, you can think, did I eat that? Or was I drinking that? Or was I in a particularly stressful situation at the time? What was it that was the trigger for that thing? If you keep an eye on it, you might be able to notice a pattern and start to be able to do something about it. Dizziness. Funnily enough, people often don't associate dizziness with menopause. They nearly always think, oh my gosh, I've got something absolutely awful wrong. But having these dizzy phases can often be related to the fact that your inner ear is also sensitive to estrogen. And when the estrogen's going down, its ability to keep you sort of safe and stable in the place that you are can feel impaired. I remember, in fact, years ago, in my perimenopause, I was running a lot. I was training for a marathon, and I noticed that I was running across the road, so much so that I took myself off to the doctor, and I had brain scans and the brain was there, but there was nothing else wrong. And actually, it was one of my earlier symptoms of perimenopause. This is a one that people are very embarrassed to talk about: changes in your body odor. Have you noticed that? Some people say to me, one armpit smells different from the other armpit, but there are sort of three main reasons why this could be the case. Well, number one, we know that night sweats and hot flushes during the day often mean that we're a little bit more sweaty. If you're a little bit more sweaty, then you need to pay more attention to your personal hygiene, and you often can't do that. And so there is a likelihood that we're going to smell a bit more. Noticing the things that make that happen can be key, whether it's something you ate or a stressful situation, but also it can be key to have a damp cloth that you've got with you, perhaps experiment with different deodorants. I try to use things that aren't full of chemicals and use natural products, but everybody has to experiment with what works for them. Okay, another reason for increased body odor, and I need to talk about it because if I don't, you might think you're the only one. 1 in 2 women will struggle during perimenopause or menopause with some kind of incontinence. If that happens, if a little bit of wee comes out or a little bit of feces comes out in a given situation, of course there's going to be a knock-on impact. It doesn't mean that you are the only one that's ever happened to, and it certainly doesn't mean that you're beyond being helped or supported by somebody who really knows what they're doing. But please don't feel like you're the only one and you've got to struggle through that if that's something that happens to you. And then the only other thing is that the pH of your vagina can change also with the fluctuations in hormone, leading to a slightly different odor. Some people call it a fishy odor. If that's something that you haven't had checked out and you want to go and talk to, again, your GP or a women's health physio, and just make sure everything's all right and being reassured that it is all right, it could be something that's just pertinent to where you're at the moment. Number 7, ear changes. Firstly, tinnitus, this constant ringing in your ears, or highly sensitive hearing to things like chewing or breathing or knives and forks cutting or anything like that. For me, it's listening to Formula One on the television, racing cars going round and round. It drives me up the wall. So once again, our ears, very sensitive to estrogen, can have 2 effects. This tinnitus, which often comes spontaneously and can go spontaneously, and this very, very sensitive hearing. Worth getting your tinnitus checked. Talk to a GP who might refer you to somebody else because there's other treatments that can be given. And very sensitive hearing, earplugs at night that completely get rid of all sound, if the snoring issue is one, or perhaps having sound reducing earplugs during the day at meal times or at certain times, if that's helpful for you. That's number 7. Number 8, electric shock symptoms, or feeling like you've got ants crawling under your skin. This was first reported to me years ago by a friend who said, I think I've got a poltergeist. I'm sure there's somebody who tickles my back when I walk into that room. What? And what she was noticing, this was years and years and years ago, was this ant sensation of something crawling under her skin on her back. And again, this is down to the reduction in estrogen. It's called paresthesia, and it's the little nerve endings not having as much estrogen as they're used to, and that manifests itself in these electric shock sensations or this tingling sensations. You can often actually just get rid of it by rubbing, causing a different stimulation, and then it will go. But often once you know what it is, that's reassuring too, because you know you're not going mad and you haven't got a poltergeist. Number 9. An increase in allergic reactions to things. If you're somebody who's never had an allergic reaction, you may find that suddenly you're more sensitive to, I don't know, soap powder or some kind of perfume you put on your body, or perhaps something that you eat. If you've always been an allergic-y sort of person, then your allergies could increase. And that's again due to us often having an accelerated histamine production due to the decline of our other hormones. That's number 9. And number 10. Your voice can change. If you're not somebody who uses your voice for your business or in your day-to-day life, this may not be an issue for you. But changes in our voice, such as hoarseness, or the pitch of your voice, if you're perhaps a singer or you're a public speaker, or voice fatigue, if you're somebody who has to present in front of a lot of people for a long period of time, noticing the changes in your voice can be, again, related to your perimenopause and menopause. So my advice for you in that situation is to talk to a voice coach. It's something that I noticed again quite a few years ago when I was teaching all day to a large audience, presenting at the end of the day. My voice would be really tired. I thought it was sore, but actually it was just that I'd been talking all day, and it got worse as I got older. So voice changes. I hope that those 10 unusual perimenopause symptoms or menopause symptoms have been interesting or useful for you. I hope that you haven't ticked all of them and said, yes, 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 I've got all of those. And I hope you've given you some ideas of who you might be able to talk to get some help with those symptoms. I'll be back with another helpful perimenopause or menopause video very soon. Bye.